I want to share with you very briefly, and of course, to have a full discussion on this topic would take, some time. But I do think that we can have a very brief discussion about Islam, uh, the Bible, and slavery. I just want to bring this up for you. You can see a photo here of some slaves, probably old painting of some sort. And then you have a quote from the Bible that seems to, or from the Apostle Paul from his letter to the Ephesians. Slaves, obey your earthly masters with deep respect. Serve them with sincerity as you would serve Christ. And of course, we are to, in the workplace today, when we bring this into the 21st century, we are to, obey our bosses, those who are over us, who are in one way our earthly masters. Um, it's interesting neglect the rest of the passage, which talks about the masters treating their employees or their slaves with respect and dignity. And what we need to first of all is examine that historically all cultures had slaves, and even in Africa, black tribes would raid other black tribes and take slaves, and they would sell them to the Europeans. This is because when we look at the European slave trade, for example, is the Europeans stayed on the coast. They did not go into the interior to capture slaves. To do so was to invite death. They would die of diseases, of malaria, and so they would stay on the coast where they're in relative safety. And so what they would do is they would negotiate and buy slaves from the black slave traders. This is just a historical fact, and when we see, when you see an image like this, it is very misleading, and the person who has posted it has no history of the history of slavery. In East Africa, the Arab slave traders were coming and raiding slaves. They were buying slaves, and they were transported to Islamic lands. And let's be brutal, they would castrate the males and put them in the harem. Also, we notice that the one holding the whip doesn't look like a white guy to me in this. And so my challenge for my Muslim friends is, are you able to name one Muslim abolitionist who opposed the African and Arab slave trade? Nary a one. And it's also very interesting, in an Islamic country, in Mauritania, slavery was legal until 1980. And I do believe that even in Darfur, there is still slavery going on. And these people are going to into Muslim countries. I remember some time ago, don't ask me when I saw this, but I saw a film, and I think I may have seen it again on YouTube, that as in the 1960s, Arabs were buying black slaves, and they were going off to Saudi or some rich Arab, some rich Arab oil sheikh was, buying black slaves. And so slavery is certainly reprehensible. It's a vile crime, but you're saying, and it is condemned in the Bible, or shall we say, man stealing, going and taking people captive and selling them as slaves. Regarding that, when you actually look at slavery in the Bible, slaves were to be treated with great dignity. And in the first century, 80% of the culture were slaves. If you weren't a slave, you were a ruler, an aristocrat, or you were a slave. And if you were neither one, you didn't eat. And so I really think that when you post stuff like this, it's actually quite misleading. You know, I'm a great one for speaking the truth and looking at things historically. And again, the American slave trade was reprehensible, but it was ended by Christian abolitionists, evangelicals. And the same way in Europe, when you read the history of how slavery ended in Great Britain or the United Kingdom, it was Christian abolitionists like William Wilberforce, who was led the charge against slavery. And it's also very interesting when we sing the hymn Amazing Grace, written by John Newton, who before he was became a believer and before he was saved, was a slaver. And he gave us this great hymn. And he too was an abolitionist and helped in the fight against slavery. And so just a bit of a history lesson. I hope that this is, furthers the discussion rather than, fermenting hatred, which again, I think that this slide again, that's all it does. It's all it's done. It's, again, it's the fake news from our Muslim friends. Again, thanks for watching. Have a great day, and may God bless.